One thing that has helped teams who hold the first overall pick avoid the overall financial damage that does when you get it wrong is the 2011 CBA with a rookie wage scale that reeled in the amount of money that a Jamarcus Russell or another bust gets at the top of the draft. And that leads to where we are right now. The new CBA is moving closer and closer to being adopted. What you need to know begins with the meeting that happened last night between the NFL and the NFLPA. They met for roughly 4 hours, and then the NFLPA had a meeting of its full board of player representatives, 32 members. And as George Atala, the NFLPA spokesman, tweeted at 1:05 a.m. Eastern Time, the board voted to send the proposed collective bargaining agreement to the membership for a vote. Now, I'm told there's not going to be a recommendation from the board. It was not a 2/3 supermajority. The vote, I'm told, was 17 yes, 14 no, 1 abstention. They got just enough votes to push this thing through because the union announced on Monday to all agents and players that a majority of the board needed to vote yes, or they wouldn't send it to the full union.
Right.
17 votes, the magic number. They're going to send it to the full union. If at least half plus one of 1,900 dues-paying members of the union say yes, there's a new CBA. And the belief is they will, and this will get wrapped up, and we'll start the new league year on March 18 with a higher salary cap and a promise of 17 games at some point between 2021 and 2023.
So to you, what is the big selling point to the players that, I don't want to say we had a drastic change, but of course we had the first vote of last week that went to 6-5, no. Now,
that was the executive committee.
That was it, I know.
The group that negotiated the deal said no, 6-5, which still makes no sense.
It still makes no sense. Exactly right. Now, with this, what do you think the players, their big fear is? Just all the things that you've mentioned, the fact that we're worried about dropping ratings, election year, economy drop, all those things, and the players are realizing that, and they just want to strike now, and like DeMaurice Smith is kind of pushing this?
Well, DeMaurice Smith has been behind the idea of this CBA proposal from the get-go. He presided over the negotiations. There's a term sheet. I'm told he signed off on it, which isn't binding, but at least it sends a message to the rest of the union that the guy you hired to run the union wants this deal. So if he wants it, this is very simple. If he recommends this deal and you don't want it, they either need a new executive director or he needs a new client.
Yeah.
Because it's not working.
Right.
It's not happening if the people he serves don't want to take his advice. And at some point, he has to say, I'm out. Or they have to say, you're out. But as of right now, they're following his advice. They've understood. I don't know what happened yesterday between the NFL and the NFLPA.
Yeah, right.
I haven't seen anything to suggest that any significant concessions were made by the NFL. It could just be that some very persuasive gentlemen in the room, Jerry Jones, et cetera, and maybe they had a PowerPoint presentation where they showed the players, here's what happens if we delay this process of getting a deal done and moving toward new TV deals. Here's what will happen with the ratings in 2020, and here's what will happen with the willingness of the networks to give us big money if we're operating from a position of weakness, not a position of strength like we are now.
Right.
And here are the economic forecasts over the next year and a half, and the economy is going to have a downturn, and the Dow's down 2,000 points over the last 2 days. Things can change quickly. I don't know how much of that fear was used to get the players to pivot to it, but the way DeMaurice Smith has always considered this, there's two deals. The deal with the league and the deal with the networks. And you combine them. And in his mind, it's better to combine them now than to combine them later.
Right.
Period. And that's where it all comes from. And whatever was said barely worked. 17, the magic number from the Board of Player Representatives, said yes. So, mission accomplished, and now it goes on to the full membership.
Well, I mean, listen, I fully expected that the owners were going to win this negotiation. I just don't want it to be a slaughter fest. That's the only thing I ever worry about as a player. I mean, this is their domain, this conversation. But at the same time, I am happy that it's going in the right direction, selfishly as a fan, selfishly because of our job. And, hey, of course, the NFL, it's on fire right now. We talk about it a lot. It's king. It's king of TV. It's king of all our sports in this country, and why not keep that rolling while we got a hot hand here? So from that standpoint, I am happy about it. I know there's going to be a lot of things in the agreement that I'm not going to be necessarily pleased with.
Well, and once we dig into the nooks and crannies, we'll see what's in there that is and isn't favorable to the players. But the bottom line is this. The owners do own the league, and there is no football without the players. But when we get down to basic concepts of strikes and replacement players and supply versus demand, there are a lot more players who can slap on that uniform, right?
Yes.
And that we saw that in 1987, and I think that's the fundamental leverage. And there are other ways the players can exert leverage. And look, it's not going to come to that. The good news is we're not going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with that.
We had to deal with it in 2011. We don't have to deal with it now. And you didn't have to deal with it then because you weren't in the media. You were locked in a closet in Foxborough.
I was. I wasn't even there yet. I was actually just still like...
You were still playing.
I was like out of the league getting some calls from maybe some teams thinking I might have one more chance, one more year, or whatever it may be. But yeah, that did not happen. And so I was not involved in that process at all. Yes, I was just sitting at home observing, basically.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.